Hello, your resourcer is here today with tips about setting up Evernote when you're ready to do a research project. You can see I'm actually in Evernote right now in the web-based version. You'll notice that because of the symbol for Evernote, the profile of an elephant's head, up here in the left-hand corner. I'm inside of a note that I've made with a setup checklist because these are the things you do need to have done before you start doing your research. Of course, you'll need to sign up for an Evernote account if you don't already have one. Install the Evernote Web Clipper extension to your browser, and when you've done that, you're going to notice that you have the elephant head profile over here, and that's what's going to allow you to clip whatever is on your screen into your Evernote account. You'll want to install the Evernote app onto any of your mobile devices where you anticipate using it, and likewise install the Evernote desktop version onto your computer or laptop if you'd like offline access to your notes. After you've done all that installing, though, you do want to take a few moments to create some notebooks. For a research project, consider creating a notebook for each major subtopic or branch of your argument that you anticipate. And then, if desired, organize those notebooks into a stack with the project name. I'll talk about tags, which you'll also notice on the checklist in a minute, but let's look at notebooks. You'll notice that I can view my notes either as a list of notes, a list of notebooks, or by tag. I'm going to switch from Note View to Notebook View and scroll down so you can see how I have my notebook set up for a pretend Global Studies 10 research paper. You'll notice I've created 4 notebooks: Uncategorized, Wealth and Social Status, Faith and Family, Education and Teaching, and then placed all of those notebooks into a stack called GS10 Research Paper. You do need to create notebooks prior to being able to put them into a stack. What each of these notebooks represents is an anticipated subtopic for my paper. So in this case, I'm pretending that I'm researching women's influence prior to getting the right to vote. And these are ways that I anticipate, prior to beginning my research, that women wielded influence in society at that time. But I also need an uncategorized notebook because some of my evidence is going to relate to my introduction or concluding paragraphs, or perhaps be related to categories I'm not anticipating already. Now, I mentioned tags, and that's another decision you'll want to make. So let's talk about those briefly. Tags are keywords that you use to add descriptions to what your note is about, what your piece of evidence is about. And they're powerful in 2 ways. You can use a tag to find a note later. You can also use it as a way to group notes together. The finding can be pretty simple because you have a search feature in Evernote anyway, so it's going to find any words in a note that are part of the text or in the title. But the tag provides an extra way to pull things together, and that's really where its power lies. Here are a few tips if you're going to tag your notes. Consider tagging major subtopics like the ones that I used for the notebook titles. Consider tagging evidence type when you know that for your paper. Consider tagging bias or side, in this case something like pro-suffrage or anti-suffrage. And if you already use a tag for personal use, which might be the case if you already use Evernote, you might consider a slightly different tag to mark evidence you collect for this paper versus other things that you're collecting out on the web related to that tag. So it might not surprise you to know that I already, of course, have a tag that I use in Evernote called Education. And so for this paper, I might use a tag instead called GS10_education. Do choose to use either plural or singular tags to keep your tagging consistent. And when you have any tag that's more than one word, do connect it with something like an underscore because it needs to be one constant string of characters. And then finally, as you take different sources from the web and save them into your Evernote account or from other places that you take pictures of or whatever, do be consistent about their use. So if you use occupation, use that, not jobs. If you abbreviate Equal Suffrage League as ESL, keep with that acronym instead of switching back to the whole organization's name typed out. And then, of course, periodically clean up inconsistencies in your tags. Let's just look briefly at how it looks to take something from Evernote and put it in one of these notebooks. Here we are on the website of the Virginia Historical Society, reading an article about the Equal Suffrage League of Virginia. Let's say we want to save this evidence to our Evernote notebook. What we do is go up into our browser toolbar and clip on the Evernote web clipper. It would load up, and then the type of clipping I usually like to make is a simplified article. What that does is take just the article text, leaving behind anything like ads or comments that would just be distracting and not really add to the evidence in my paper typically. Then what I do is I pick which of the notebooks I want to save this into. So I'm going to scroll up. These are alphabetically listed. So the Stack GS10 research paper, and then this one is probably going to be part of my introductory information. So I'm going to put that in the uncategorized notebook for now. I can add a tag. This talks about lobbying, so I might do one GS10 lobbying because I have some other things about politics in my notes. And then perhaps also do one GS10 intro since I'm anticipating this might be in my paper's introduction. You'll notice you also have a place to add a remark, to type in text or paste in other text that you want here. This is a valuable field, particularly when you're working with a source that is from a database, because when Evernote or any other web clipping tool clips a source from the web, it takes with it the address that's in the browser's address bar, hoping that it'll be a link back to the source for you. Well, it is in this case, but for articles inside of databases and some other types of sources, this is not a stable link back to this particular source. So you would want to put what is the stable link back in the remark field, but I'll talk about that in another video. For now, let's go ahead and clip this particular piece of evidence to our Evernote notebook. We get a confirmation that it is synced and then clipped, and then I can click on the title of the evidence and pull up a preview to make sure I got the kind of note that I was after. And I do have just the article, which is what I had in mind. I can preview that. And then let's say I want to go ahead and make a few quick markups to this particular document. I can go here under the drop-down menu and say Go to Notes. This is going to open up the note right inside of my Evernote account, ready for me to mark it up with a various set of text tools. So let's say I want to focus on the way that these women traveled throughout the state to raise public awareness, the way that they were actively lobbying. Maybe I'll change that particular part of this article to pink so I remember to look at it when I go back. This is also a great time to go ahead and add notes of things you're thinking as you're reading this, ideas that you have about finding additional evidence. And I like to put my own ideas or thoughts like that in green, and I like to indent them so they stick out a little bit more, but you do it whatever way you'd like. And so I'm going to make a note to myself, look for letters by these women, because I have lots of famous names up there in that introductory paragraph, in the Virginia Historical Society and Valentine History Museum collections. Those might be a great source of primary material for my paper. So now I'm ready to go, and that's just one example of how I might mark up notes as I'm taking them from the web using Evernote. So just a few reminders, do all your installations that you need to do, have all your tools ready, set up your notebooks. I'm going to pull back down in my notebook list and show you that again. So one for each major subtopic, one perhaps uncategorized in a stack called research paper, but you do this how you want. This is just one suggestion. And then decide whether or not you're going to use tags. And if you do those things, you should have good success using Evernote for your research paper evidence collections. And if you have any questions as you go along, feel free to stop by the library and ask. Have a great day.